The sun was setting behind the houses of a quiet neighborhood. Warm orange light touched the roofs and windows, giving everything a soft and peaceful look. Inside a small family home on a corner street, a family prepared for another calm evening. Darren, the father, sat at the dining table with a notebook in front of him. He worked from home most days, and he liked finishing his tasks before dinner. His wife, Lena, stood in the kitchen stirring a pot of soup. The smell filled the whole house with a warm and comforting feeling. Their son, Tom, sat on a nearby chair reading a small book. Their daughter, Mila, played with her wooden blocks on the carpet, humming a quiet tune. Everything felt normal and safe. This was the kind of evening they enjoyed the most. A simple meal, some warm light, and time with each other. Darren looked up from his notebook and smiled at his family. He liked these moments. He liked seeing peace in his house. He worked hard for this, and he wanted his children to grow in a home that felt safe. Inside the kitchen, Lena tasted the soup and turned to him. "Dinner is almost ready. Can you call the children to wash their hands?" Darren nodded and stood up. Before he could say anything, a loud knock hit their front door. It was not a normal knock. It was strong and sudden, shaking the door in its frame. The entire family paused. Lena looked toward the sound with a confused expression. "Who could that be at this time?" she asked. Darren walked toward the door slowly. He felt a twist in his stomach. Something about the knock felt wrong. He had lived in this neighborhood for years, and he never heard a knock that strong. Before he reached the door, the knocking turned louder. It sounded more like pounding now. Darren raised his voice. "I am coming. You do not have to hit the door like that." But the pounding did not stop. It grew more forceful. Lena stepped closer to their children and held them near. Mila wrapped her arms around Lena's leg. Tom looked worried. Darren reached the door and opened it halfway. The moment the lock clicked, several officers pushed the door wide. They stepped inside fast, without waiting, without asking permission. Their movements were sharp and rushed. Their boots thudded across the floor as they spread through the entrance hall. Darren took a step back in shock. "Wait, what are you doing in my house? Why did you enter like that?" he asked. None of the officers answered at first. They moved in different directions, checking the living room, opening doors, looking around with serious eyes. Their hands stayed near their equipment, ready for something Darren did not understand. Lena held the children tighter. "Darren, what is happening?" she said. "I do not know," he answered. He turned toward the officers again. "You cannot enter without permission. You did not show any paper or explain anything." One of the officers finally looked at him and spoke in a firm voice. "We received a report about this address. We are checking the home." Darren frowned. "A report about what? This is my home. My family is here. You have no reason to come inside." The officer did not answer. He walked past Darren and looked behind the couch. Another opened a closet. A third officer walked toward the kitchen. Lena stepped back, shielding her children. "Please stay away from the children," she said. But the officer was not looking at the children. He was looking around the kitchen. His eyes passed over the shelves, the stove, and then something on the counter caught his attention. A small metal badge. He stopped moving. His face changed from stern to startled. He reached forward and picked up the badge carefully. He read the letters on it. The badge belonged to the National Security Staff, an authentic one, with Darren's name on it. The officer blinked, and his entire posture shifted. "Everyone stop," he called out. All the officers froze. Some lowered their hands from their equipment. Some stepped back from the rooms they were searching. A heavy silence filled the house. Darren saw the badge in the officer's hand, and realized why the room had suddenly changed. The lead officer asked in a controlled voice, "Sir, is this your badge?" Darren lifted his chin. Calm but firm. "Yes, that is my badge. I work in national security, and I do not understand why your team entered my home without a warrant or explanation." The officers looked at one another. The lead officer's face slowly turned pale. The badge was real. Every security officer knew what that meant. Lena stepped beside Darren, still holding the children close. "You frightened our kids. You came inside without asking." "We did nothing wrong," she said. The lead officer swallowed, unsure how to respond. "We received a digital alert in this area," he explained. "Something that looked suspicious. We followed the signal to this house." A signal from what? Darren asked. "A short burst communication. It was flagged as unusual," the officer replied. Darren thought for a moment, then walked toward a small shelf beside the living room door. He lifted a small device from the top. It had a single blinking light. "This is a test tool from my training work," he said. "I used it earlier today. It sends short-range signals. It is harmless." The lead officer looked at the device. Another officer rubbed the back of his neck. The truth hit all of them at the same time. They had entered the home of a trained national security worker, a worker who understood the law, a worker whose family they had frightened for no real reason. Darren placed the device down and crossed his arms. "You did not confirm the source. You did not wait. You did not do basic checks. You came inside fast without thinking about who lives here or what you might cause." The officers stood silently now, no longer moving around the house. Lena looked at each of them. "You must understand the fear you created," she said. Her voice was soft but steady. "Our children are young. They do not know why strangers rushed into their home. Mila clung to her mother's leg again. Tom held his father's arm. Staying close, the lead officer finally lowered his head. "We made a mistake," he said. "We rushed. We are sorry." But apologies did not erase the fear still in the children's eyes. The warm, peaceful evening had turned into a moment the family would remember for a long time. Durand took a slow breath. "There's more to talk about," he said. "But first you need to understand something. A home is not a place to enter in haste. You cannot treat families as suspects. You must be careful with your steps and your decisions." The officers nodded quietly. The lead officer returned the badge to the counter. His voice was lower now, filled with caution. "We will listen. We want to understand." The tension in the family remained, but Darren stayed calm. He looked at his children, then at Lena, and then at the officers who now stood still and waiting. Part 1 ends with the room heavy and quiet, a peaceful home disrupted by a sudden storm, and the truth beginning to unfold in the center of it. The quiet inside the house felt almost strange after everything that had happened. The door was closed again, and the evening breeze no longer rushed inside. The lights were warm, the soup still sat on the stove, and the home looked the same as before, but the feeling in the air had changed. It was calmer now, but also heavier with thought. Lena walked slowly toward the couch with Mila still resting in her arms. She sat down and helped Tom sit beside her. "Are you both all right?" she asked gently. Tom nodded but looked tired. "I am fine, Mama. It was just scary." Mila spoke in a small voice. "I did not like how loud they were." Lena kissed the top of her daughter's head. "They are gone now. You are safe here." Durand stood near the dining table looking at his family. Every movement the officers made replayed in his mind. He did not like how quickly fear had filled their home. Defense training and years of professional experience could not remove the worry he felt. When he saw fear in his children's eyes, he walked to the kitchen and turned the stove off so the soup would not overheat. Then he took a deep breath and went back to the living room. "I think we all should sit together for a moment," he said softly. Lena nodded. "Come here." Darren joined them on the couch. He placed an arm around Tom and looked at his whole family. "What happened today was wrong," he said. "But we are together, and that is what matters. You are safe. That is the most important thing." Tom leaned slightly against him. "Papa, will they come back?" "No," Durand said gently. "They understood their mistake. They will not enter like that again." Mila looked up at him with wide eyes. "Why did they listen to you after they saw the badge?" Darren rested his hand on her small shoulder. "Because that badge is part of my work. It shows I help keep people safe." When they saw it, they realized they needed to stop and think more. Mila nodded slowly. She did not understand everything, but she understood enough. Lena looked at Darren with calm eyes. "Thank you for speaking to them the way you did. You were clear, you were strong, you made them understand." Durand looked at her. "I just wanted them to know how their decisions affect the people they meet. They cannot work without thinking." For a moment, the family sat in quiet. The children started to relax again. The fear was fading little by little, replaced by the comfort of being together. After a few minutes, Lena stood up. "We should eat something. The children are hungry." Tom nodded quickly. "I am hungry now. I could not eat when they were here." Lena smiled and went to the kitchen. "Dinner will help everyone feel normal again." Darren helped set the table. He placed 4 plates, 4 spoons, and glasses of water. Mila carried a stack of napkins, placing them neatly beside each plate. Tom helped bring the bread basket. Soon the family sat down to eat. The soup was warm and mild, and the familiar taste felt comforting. Mila dipped her bread into a bowl and smiled a little. Tom ate quietly but looked more relaxed. For a moment, everything felt like a normal family dinner again. But as they ate, Darren felt the need to talk more. "Lena," he said, "after dinner, I want to check the device again. I want to see if it sent more signals than it should." She nodded. "That is a good idea. We should make sure nothing else will attract attention." Tom looked up. "Papa, can you teach me how your device works later? Maybe I can learn too." Darren smiled gently. "When you are older, I will show you more. For now, I can explain the simple parts." Tom seemed excited. "Okay." The house felt different now. Only minutes earlier it had been full of warm smells and soft evening light. Now it felt like a room holding its breath. The officers stood near the doorway, no longer rushing around. They waited for Darren to speak, and none of them dared to move without his permission. Darren walked to the table and placed his hand on the back of a chair. He did not sit down yet. He wanted to understand everything clearly, and he wanted these officers to understand their mistake even more clearly. Lena held the children close but slowly guided them to the couch. "It is all right. Sit here with me," she said. Tom nodded and sat beside her. Mila climbed onto her lap and rested her head on her mother's shoulder. Both children looked tired from fear, but they were watching everything with wide, cautious eyes. Durand turned toward the officers. "You said there was a signal, a digital alert. I want you to explain everything about it. What kind of alert was it, and why did it point to this house?" The lead officer took a step forward. He looked nervous but tried to speak with control. "We monitor unusual signals in the area. Earlier today, we received one that matched some of our alert patterns. It was a quick burst of data. We traced it to this block and then to this exact address. That tells me your equipment can detect a location, Darren said. But it does not tell me why you came in so fast. Did you see any sign of danger from outside this home? Did you hear anything wrong? Did you observe anything strange? No, the officer admitted. There was no sound, no movement, just the detected signal. Daron nodded slowly. Then your judgment was rushed. You made a decision based on incomplete information. You should have talked first. You should have asked. You should have checked more carefully. Another officer stepped forward. He had remained silent until now. Sir, we thought the signal could be serious. We wanted to make sure no one inside was in danger. Daron looked at him. You did not consider that the family inside could be frightened by your sudden entry. You did not think how this would affect my wife or my children. The younger officer lowered his eyes. Lena gently stroked Mila's hair. My daughter was playing only a few minutes before you entered. She dropped everything when you came inside. She did not understand what was happening. She only felt fear. You cannot imagine how that feels for a mother. Her voice was soft but carried weight. The officers listened silently. Even they could not deny it now. They had caused harm without meaning to. Daron finally sat down at the table and motioned for the lead officer to speak again. Tell me something. Did you know whose signal this was before coming in? Did you check if it belonged to a government worker? Did you look up anything before acting? The lead officer shook his head. We received the alert and moved fast. That was our mistake. Daron rested his hands on the table. You see that device on the shelf? That small box with the blinking light? That is a training tool. It sends out a short signal to test communication range. I used it earlier today. If your equipment detected it, that means your alert filters are too sensitive. It means you need better confirmation before acting. The lead officer nodded. We understand. We will file a report. This will be corrected. Darren's eyes softened a little, but his voice stayed steady. I want to believe that. But right now, you should also understand what this moment feels like for my family. When you walk into someone's home without warning, you are stepping into their safe space. You are entering the one place where they believe nothing bad can happen. And you broke that trust. Lena placed a hand on Darren's shoulder. Her presence calmed him slightly. The lead officer then looked at Lena and the children. We truly are sorry. We acted without enough thought. Lena spoke gently. Words can help, but actions matter more. You must change the way you work. You must knock first. Ask questions. Use your judgment. Mila lifted her head a little and looked toward the officers. Her small voice surprised everyone. Why did you come in so fast? Her question was innocent but powerful. The officers exchanged glances. The lead officer slowly crouched down a little, keeping distance but lowering himself so he did not look tall or frightening. I am sorry, he said to her. We thought something could be wrong. But we were wrong. You and your family were safe the whole time. Mila nodded lightly but still leaned against her mother. Tom finally spoke as well. My sister cried when you came in. You scared her. The younger officer who had lowered his eyes earlier stepped forward and spoke softly. I am sorry, Tom. We never wanted to scare anyone. We will remember what you said. The room felt heavy, but some of the fear had eased. The officers were no longer standing tall with stern expressions. They looked more human now, more aware of the impact of their actions. Daron stood again. I will tell you something important. My work in national security teaches me many things. One of them is how to judge real danger. You cannot work in fear. When you let fear control your actions, you make mistakes. You acted fast because you feared the possibility of something wrong. But fear is not a guide. It is only a warning. You still need clear judgment. The officers listened carefully. This was more than criticism. This was a lesson they needed. The lead officer took a slow breath. You are right. If we had known who lived here, we would have acted differently. That is another mistake, Darren said. You should not treat people differently based on who they are. Every home deserves respect. Every family deserves safety. You should have knocked. You should have asked. You should have looked closer before stepping inside. The lead officer lowered his head again. You are teaching us something important today. We will not forget it. Lena stood with Mila in her arms and moved closer to Daron as he continued. You must think carefully before acting. That is how you keep people safe. Not by rushing, not by assuming, but by thinking. The younger officer nodded. I understand. We all do. For the first time since the situation began, Darren saw sincerity in their eyes. They did not look defensive anymore. They looked willing to learn. He walked toward the front door and opened it slightly, letting the cool air flow inside. You can leave now, he said gently. But remember what happened here. Remember my family. And remember that the next home you enter might also have children. You must act with care. The officers walked toward the exit, quiet and respectful. One by one they stepped out of the house. The lead officer stopped at the doorway and looked back at the family. Thank you for speaking to us with honesty, he said. We will do better. Then he left. Daron closed the door softly. The house was quiet again. The storm had begun to settle, but its memory still hung in the air. Lena held Mila close. Tom leaned on her side, and Darren stood beside them, knowing the evening had changed everything. Part 2 ends with the officers gone, the house finally calm, and the family standing together. stronger than the fear that entered their home. The sun was rising over the quiet street when the long night finally began to calm. The blue lights were gone. The loud voices had faded. The neighbors had gone back inside. Only peace remained around the house, even if the minds inside were still tense. Sam stood near the doorway with a tired look on his face. He watched the street as if expecting more cars to return. His hands were steady now, but his heart still carried the heavy weight of the night. Behind him, Maya sat on the sofa with her 2 children beside her. The children leaned against her shoulder while still looking uneasy. They were tired, but they did not want to sleep yet. They kept glancing around the room as if trying to confirm that everything was truly peaceful. Officer Lee remained inside as well. He had stayed when the others left, wanting to make sure the family was safe. Sam had agreed, even though Sam was still confused and stressed. He trusted Lee enough to allow him to stay a little longer. Lee stood in the living room, looking around the place one more time. His eyes were calm now. There was no rush in his steps. He wanted to leave the family with something more than apologies. He wanted to leave them with protection. After a long silence, Sam finally spoke. "So it is over now." His voice was low. "For now, yes," Lee answered. "But I will not pretend everything is simple. Something was not right about the whole situation. I think someone wanted information about you or your work." Sam's hands tightened slightly. He was not scared for himself, but he was worried about his family. He took a slow breath. "I am tired of running from shadows," he said. "I never wanted any of this. I work in the communications division. I am not even in the field. I never expected something like this to reach my home." Maya listened quietly. She had heard Sam talk about his work only in small pieces over the years. She knew he was good with systems and signals. She knew he helped decode messages and track harmful activity. She knew he followed strict rules, but she never knew that his badge could cause so much trouble. She reached forward and took Sam's hand. "You protect the country. Now we protect each other," she said. Her voice was soft but held firm strength. Sam looked at her with gratitude. He knew he had a strong family. Lee stepped closer. "I contacted someone I trust. They will review what happened last night. Not publicly. Not through a loud system. Quietly and carefully. They will check who requested information about you and why. They will look into who called for a rush operation and how your badge ended up in the open." Sam nodded slowly. "Thank you. You have already done a lot." Lee shook his head. "No, I only did what was right. What happened last night was not acceptable. No family should face that without reason." Maya gave a small smile. "You are different from the others. You actually listened to us." Lee lowered his eyes for a moment. He felt a mix of pride and sadness. He had joined the force to help people, but he knew many had forgotten what help meant. "I will be honest," he said. "At first I was confused too when I saw the badge, but when I looked at your family, I saw fear, and I knew something was not right. Fear tells the truth before anything else." Sam walked toward the kitchen and returned with a glass of water for Lee. The officer accepted it with a thankful nod. They all sat down around the room, letting the morning light settle over them. Minutes passed in peaceful silence. Then Maya asked a question she had been carrying all night. "Do you think someone targeted our home on purpose?" Lee did not answer right away. He was thinking carefully. "I think someone made a decision without checking facts," he finally said. "And someone else took that decision and used it to hurry everything. There is a chain behind last night. We just do not know who started it or why." Sam's eyes grew thoughtful. "I have been working on decoding a set of strange transmissions. They came from unknown sources. They were not dangerous on the surface, but they were unusual. Maybe someone thought I knew more than I do." "That is possible," Lee replied. "Sometimes misunderstanding creates trouble." Maya held her children a little tighter. "We will stay together. That is all that matters to me." Her daughter leaned into her side. "Mom, I got scared when the lights came in the window. I thought something bad was happening." Maya kissed the top of her head. "You are safe now. Nothing bad will happen." Lee watched the moment with a gentle expression. He wanted to protect this family. He wanted them to rest without fear. "Listen," he said. "Tonight was wrong. I cannot erase it, but I can make sure it does not happen again. I will keep checking in until we know everything. If anything strange happens, day or night, you call me." Sam agreed. "Yes, thank you." Lee stood up and began preparing to leave. Before stepping out, he turned back one last time. "You are strong people. Do not let fear stay in your home. This place belongs to you, not to panic. Remember that." Sam walked him to the door and watched him leave. As Lee got in his car and drove down the street, Sam felt a slow calm filling the air. He walked back inside. Maya stood and wrapped her arms around him. The children hugged his sides. The whole family held each other in a warm circle of relief. For the first time since the night began, Sam closed his eyes and breathed deeply. He felt safe again, not because the danger was gone, but because he had a family who trusted him and stood with him. Through everything, he opened his eyes and looked around the room. The furniture was a little displaced. The air still carried leftover tension, but the house was still standing. Their life was still standing. "We will fix everything," Sam said. Maya smiled. "Yes, together." The children nodded. The long night had brought fear, confusion and chaos. But it had also revealed something stronger. It had shown the courage of a family. It had shown the power of understanding. It had shown that trust could still exist in moments of uncertainty. And as the morning sun rose higher, lighting every corner of their home, Sam felt something new growing inside him. Hope, a strong and steady hope that no badge, no mistake, and no confusion could take away from them. Their home was safe again. Their family was whole, and the story that began with fear ended with unity. A new day had begun. The night settled over the neighborhood, calm and steady, as if it wanted to cover the earlier chaos with a blanket of quiet. Inside the house, the warm lights glowed softly across the walls. After dinner, the family gathered in the living room again. The children looked more relaxed now. They played with their small toys on the carpet, while Daron prepared to examine the signal device that had caused all the trouble. He placed the small box on the table. It was no bigger than his hand. A single light blinked gently on the surface. Lena walked over with 2 cups of warm tea and set them down. "Will the device cause more signals tonight?" she asked. "No," Daron said as he opened a small back panel. "I turned off the range earlier, but I want to understand why the signal stayed strong enough to get flagged." Tom came closer, curious. "Papa, how can such a small thing make so much noise?" Daron smiled lightly at his question. "It does not make noise you can hear. It sends signals that machines can detect. Sometimes a small machine can make a strong sound in the digital world." Tom nodded slowly, trying to understand. Mila walked over too, watching the blinking light. "Is it safe?" she asked. "Yes," Darren said gently. "It is made for training. It cannot hurt anyone." He studied the wires inside and the pieces connected to the circuit. Everything looked normal. Nothing seemed broken or out of place. Yet the signal alert earlier had been unusually strong. He could not ignore that. Lena sat down beside him. "Do you think someone might have picked up the signal by mistake?" "That is possible," Daron said. "But usually, the alerts go through several levels of checking before anyone reacts. Something made the officers move faster than they should have." Lena looked at him with a calm expression. "Do you think there was some misunderstanding in their system?" "Maybe," Darren replied. "Something in their software may have made the signal look more serious than it was." Tom suddenly looked up. "Papa, if they made a mistake today, can someone fix it tomorrow?" "Yes," Daron said. "They will talk about it at their station. They will check their equipment. They will make sure they do not repeat the same mistake again." Mila leaned on the couch. "I hope they remember we were scared." "They will," Daron said. "Your voice helped them understand." Lena smiled at the children. "You two were brave. You stayed with us. That is what matters." Hours passed quietly. The children became sleepy. Lena took them to their room and helped them lie down. She stayed with them for a few minutes until their eyes finally closed, their breathing softened, and the fear of earlier faded into dreams. When she returned to the living room, she found Daron sitting with the device still open on the table. He was deep in thought. "Did you find anything?" she asked. "No," he said softly. "Everything looks normal, but I think the alert system they used may have interpreted the signal in the wrong way. It may have been too sensitive." Lena sat beside him. "Do you think they will ask you about it tomorrow?" "Yes," Daron said. "They might need more information, and I want to speak with them too. I want to help them understand how to avoid mistakes like this." "You always want to fix things," she said with a small smile. Daron nodded with a thoughtful expression. "I want this never to happen again. Not just to us. To anyone." Lena placed a hand on his arm. "You spoke clearly to them today. They listened. You helped them see a better way." Daron took her hand gently. "I hope so." He put the small panel back on the device and closed it. The blinking light faded as he shut it off entirely. Later that night, the house fell into complete quiet. The stars outside shined through the windows. Daron and Lena checked the doors, turned off the lights, and finally prepared to sleep. But even as he lay in bed, Daron's mind stayed awake. The officers had reacted too fast. The alert had been too strong, and the mistake had been too big. He wondered if there was something deeper behind it. The next morning came with soft sunlight touching the windows. The children woke first. Their laughter filled the hall as they ran to the kitchen. Lena prepared breakfast while Daron drank tea and listened to the peaceful sounds of his home returning to normal. Then the phone rang. The sound cut through the calm. It was not loud, but it was sharp enough to catch everyone's attention. Darren set his cup down and picked up the phone. "Hello. This is Daron speaking." A calm voice answered. "This is the station supervisor. I want to speak with you regarding last night." Darren stood straight. "Yes, I expected your call. We reviewed the reports," the supervisor said. "We want to apologize again for the mistake, and we want to ask for your help in understanding the alert more clearly." "You want me to come in?" Darren asked. "Yes," the supervisor replied. "If you are willing. We want to correct our system, and your knowledge may help." Daron looked at Lena. She gave him a gentle nod. "I will come," he said. "But I also want to talk about the way your team approached the situation." "We will listen," the voice said. "We want to understand everything." After the call ended, Daron turned to his family. "They want to meet today," he said. "They want to fix what happened." Lena handed him a plate of breakfast. "You should go," she said. "Someone must help them improve." Tom looked up from his food. Papa, can we come with you? No, Duran said with a soft smile. You stay here with Mama. I will not be long. Mila reached out and touched his hand. Please come back soon. I will. He promised. After breakfast, Darren prepared to leave. He looked around the house once more. Everything was quiet again. Everything was safe. He stepped outside. The morning air was cool and fresh. As he walked toward his car, he thought about the officers from last night. He thought about their nervous faces. He thought about their mistakes. And he thought about the chance to help them understand a better way. He drove calmly through the streets, yet his mind stayed focused. Today he would speak for his family. Today he would speak for every home that deserved safety. Today he would make sure their mistake turned into something meaningful. Part 4 ends with Yaron heading toward the station, ready to teach, ready to listen, and ready to guide the people who had once stormed into his home.